Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Ultimate Spider-Man issue 12 by Jonathan Hickman, Marco Cicchetto and Matthew Wilson. Christmas comes to the Ultimate Universe as the Parkers celebrate the holidays with a family gathering, which Uncle Ben and Jonah arrive to a little later than everyone else. Hickman right off the bat teases a larger family for the Parkers here. We get a neat little mention of the Brocks, who unfortunately couldn't make it to the party this year, but surprisingly Aunt Anna and Gail, MJ's sister, have also arrived. Surprising everyone, they decided to turn up. Now I really love how relatable Hickman has made this party. Everyone has that, one Christmas party one year or another where, family you haven't really seen for a while, kind of a strange family kind of turn up. You don't really want them there, you don't really get along with them, and it can get awkward, fights can break out, all sorts of stuff like that. It happens every holiday season to everyone's family at one point or another. Hickman is really laying on that air of awkwardness here, especially with Gail being there, and then of course Madeline Watson, MJ's uptight, snooty mother, who has been badgering her daughter about cooking too much food for everyone, making MJ kind of overthink everything, making think she's gone overboard with it all. Just kind of, things you would see on the holidays from different family members. Madeline captures that uptight, I'm rich and affluent and this party's kind of beneath me and not my usual social circle attitude that at least one family member or relative always has so damn well, and right from her first appearance here you just hate her, and I'm just frustrated with her and her constant put downs of her daughter. Madeline eventually asks how Ben is doing, hinting that she might want to pursue him romantically since enough time has passed since May died, despite MJ warning her not to go down that road. This is very much an MJ-focused issue thanks to all her family members seemingly turning up when she didn't really want them to, and while she dodges phone calls from Gwen Stacy, she finally gets a moment to confront her sister Gail, who we have heard about earlier on in the series. There was hints that her and MJ don't really get along, and here we get to see why that is, and the two begin to actually have a fight and get real bitter towards each other since Gail did something in the past she never really apologized for, and it leads to a bit of a shouting match as it's revealed that Gail is very outspoken over MJ marrying Peter, not approving of it and figuring that she settled rather than finding a man that is worthy of her. As the two sisters hash things out, Ben has a neat little interaction with Aunt Anna and Madeline, and it feels like the older people in the family getting together and catching up. There's that bit of sniping at each other, but then there's also a bit of love and of course the gossip with each other as Anna reveals that Gail is actually getting divorced and probably explains why she's been acting the way she has. Madeline also continues to try and woo Ben or kind of get with him, constantly reminding him that he's got to get back on that horse eventually. And I love that Ben is familiar with the games she is playing and doesn't really entertain her all that seriously, understanding where she's coming from but doesn't want to do anything about it. MJ gets a moment to regroup with Peter, using him as a venting board to get all her problems off her chest about Gail, and eventually she decides to hope for something better to happen this time round. Now Peter doesn't actually say a single thing throughout this entire issue, as well as the sequence, which is really funny. He's just there for MJ to bounce ideas off of and complaints off of, filling that role of a supportive partner and things you should do with your partner, where you should allow them to vent to you and be the one there that they can come and just talk to and kind of get everything out of their system on. Richard and Jonah, who have also been bonding over the last handful of issues, in the background get a really cool moment here as Richard has read Jonah's book and has kind of a lot of questions, and I adore Jonah taking on that sort of grandpa role for the kids, and he gives Richard a talking to about finding love in the city and taking a gamble on things. And he has this cool moment where he reveals to the kid that it's not about experiences and everything, it's all kind of a con almost. It's a gamble and you've just got to have the best hand. This is the stuff that Hickman could easily let Peter deal with, but I like giving it to Jonah and giving him a bit more of an important role in the kids' lives, and it's so refreshing and a great angle to take on a character who never really is involved with Parker's life, with Peter's personal life or anything like that, and having him in this universe be essentially part of the family, the older uncle, is really damn cool. MJ and Gail meanwhile begin to hash things out, and MJ gets her moment to tell her sister to to kind of stop fucking about and act her age. And MJ learns of the divorce and that Gale's husband has been having an affair, realizing that this is why she's been so angry and bitter and disconnected from the family lately. I think a lesser writer would have milked this drama for all it's worth, and I can definitely see this being turned into this, multi-part, multi-issue secondary plot where they have all this running drama between these two. But Hickman cuts it off at the pass here, as these characters are actual adults in this book, and Gale admits that their so-called boring life that MJ has settled for is something that she is now seeing is actually amazing, and she couldn't see the forest through the trees until her own life was upended, and she kind of is a little jealous of her sister for having just such a normal, average life, and she would kill for that now. MJ ends up forgiving Gale as we check back in on Jonah and Ben, who are cheekily talking about Madeline and Anna, with Jonah wondering if Anna would like a guy like him. Hickman pairing these two together has been kind of like the secret sauce of this book. It's just a brilliant and new pairing that works so well. It's something we've never seen before. They argue and get along like a decades-old long married couple, and the dynamic just works. They work so well together, these two characters. The men mull over the evening's events and come to the conclusion that, all things considered, it's been a pretty darn good year. Now this feels like Hickman kind of taking a victory lap and getting a little meta here, as this is the end of the first year of Ultimate Spider-Man and the first year of the Ultimate Universe, which has been new and exciting and creatively refreshing. So it has indeed been a great year, both in the book for these characters, all their lives have changed, mostly for the better, and then obviously in our world where this universe has been wildly successful. This book is doing fantastic. It's often beating out the main universe, Amazing Spider-Man book, and yeah, it's just been so great, and I love that we get to sort of end here on a kind of high note, at least until we get a little bit of an epilogue. So all through this issue, Gwen has been trying to contact MJ, and finally she picks up the phone from the young May and finds a distraught Gwen on the other end, who tells her that Harry has been missing for almost a week. She hopes that Peter knows where he is. So if you haven't noticed, and I said this earlier, but Peter this issue hasn't actually had one piece of dialogue whatsoever, and this is really genius of Hickman, because Hickman kind of set this up earlier on in a bunch of different issues, where we actually had a couple of issues where Peter was not the focus of the issue. He was like the background character, and he didn't get a lot going on. So when it happened here, you're not questioning it. You're like, oh, there he's doing like what he did back, in issue 7 or 8. He's doing what he's done before, and in a sense, that's exactly what he's doing. But he adds a neat twist to it. There's a reason for Peter not talking, and it's one hell of a twist, as MJ takes Peter into another room to talk with him and Gwen privately. But Peter doesn't say anything, and when MJ goes to touch him, she realizes it's not Peter at all. It's the Pictotech suit taking on Peter's form, and the only words it utters is "Merry Christmas." Now this is such a goddamn amazing twist. One I figured would be happening a little sooner rather than later. The suit had all of the properties of the symbiote and was trying to take on the persona of Peter. Peter actually made it into an AI of himself. So it was like seeing the family. It was at the house. The little orb thing was in their room watching them. So of course it would eventually, I guess, snap and decide, I can be a better Peter than the real Peter. And that is seemingly what it's trying to do here. It's trying to be Peter Parker when Peter is not around, and the implications of this are, horrifying, absolutely horrifying. What else has it been doing, and what is it going to do now that MJ has found it out? Now Hickman doesn't leave us out on what's been happening with Peter and Harry, as we learn that both of them have actually been captured by Kraven the Hunter. How this happened and when this happened, obviously they've been captured for about a week by the sounds of it, but I imagine that's going to be revealed in the next issue, and I just cannot wait. Ultimate Spider-Man issue 12 rounded out Hickman's first year on the book in a wonderfully family-centric issue. I loved getting to be with this family for the past year and getting an insight into their dynamics, and every character serves a purpose and has a thoroughly interesting mini-arc that Hickman has expertly woven into his wider Ultimate Universe plot. After one hell of a twist ending here, I cannot wait to see what he has in store for us in the new year as we itch ever so closer to the Maker making a return. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.